What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stokastic here in the OddsShopper channel, coming to you with a Week 13 edition of NFL Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me on this video. Goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. This NFL season is just flying. Very few weeks left here for us to make money in the regular season, but I'll be with you through the postseason. I'll be with you through the Super Bowl. Looking forward to all of that goodness. And, well, you can get all of it. First look, every single play that I'm going to have on this video already posted there on Saturday afternoon. It was, Saturday. I'm recording a little bit later than normal here. Normally this would be a Friday recording, but with the holidays, we had Thursday, and then we had Friday football. Again, cashed another lock for the people. That was fantastic stuff. But again, Lindy 6-0, right behind my head here. You have an opportunity to sign up for Tails. That is live until Monday evening, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. Would love to see you guys there. That is my premium Discord. That's where you can get all my plays the second that they drop. And I had a couple of things I had to get fixed up in order to get that process down pat, so that when I make the bet, you guys get all of that information immediately. So great stuff. As always, here, producer Jacob, I'm ready to rock. You're ready to roll. Let's do it. Let's keep the good times coming here, because again, the last 5-6 weeks in the NFL streets have been awesome. Producer Jacob, let's get to the picks. And we begin our day. Indy at New England, 2.5 points is where this one opened at. It is still sitting at 2.5 here, and that is Indy on the favorite side. The road favorites, ooh, those always kind of freak me out. I will say, one of the wild things about the Colts with closing line spreads, 8-4 against the spread despite a 5-7 record. The Patriots are just bad all around, 3-9, 4-7-1 against the spread. But you look at Indy, you have some interesting stuff going on with Anthony Richardson. 10 design runs 2 weeks ago. Last week, you had 8 design runs, so still showing up here, but they get completely slaughtered because he was very ineffective throwing the football against Detroit. 11 for 28, sub 40% completion percentage. That is not going to get it done against almost any team, let alone, this one. Now, he's had a little bit of a fumble issue here in his couple of his starts as well. I mean, he only lost one the last 2 weeks, but he's had 3 fumbles. It's one of those things where it can be a little bit loud if you're like going to the sideline and, you fumble it out of bounds and you don't lose it that way because, again, who cares? But it's still a little bit strange watching some of the ball security issues there because he is a running quarterback. You got to be thinking about that a lot if you're Anthony Richardson. But looking at some of his numbers, I'm surprised I don't really like anything. I'm definitely not going to like it from a throwing perspective against New England because Christian Gonzalez, he should be out there on Michael Pittman nonstop, and Josh Downs is out for this game. So tons of news right from the get-go, but I do have a play from this one, and I think this is a nice single game parlay addition piece for the people, or you can play it at 49.5 rushing yards like I did. It's Ramondre Stevenson. So 50-plus yards is what I'm looking at for him. Last week was an outlier game script there for New England. I mean, not really, because they're bad at football, and they were taking on a Miami team that was obviously favored there in Miami, but Ramondre Stevenson only 8 carries, and normally you would think, oh, maybe they're ceding some work to Gibson. No, it was just a blowout. There was never really an opportunity to start establishing the run. I mean, 6 carries for Antonio Gibson is actually the most he's had since week 6, where you didn't have Ramondre Stevenson out there. But overall, this is an Indy team that we've been betting a lot to give up yardage on the ground this season, and it continues to come to fruition. They can't really set the numbers high enough in order for people to be betting the unders on some of these, it would appear. And, well, I'm happy with it here. Ramondre Stevenson, I think it's a quiet spot, 50-plus. I think that's more than serviceable against the 31st ranked rushing defense in the NFL. Next up on our tour, we go to Pitt at Cincinnati, and I'm very excited for this one because you get T. Higgins out there again, and we just saw a ridiculous outing. When T. Higgins and Jamar Chase have been on the field together this season, Cincinnati is number 1, or would be in terms of like ranking it against everybody's week, number 1 in EPA over the course of the entire season. But the problem is T. Higgins is just never out there all that much because, well, hasn't been healthy. Well, he looked very healthy coming back from that quadricep issue. Again, that popped up out of nowhere in week 8. He was out week 8, 9, 10. I think they had a bye in the middle of one of those. But T. Higgins back in action here for week 13. Oh, week 12 was their bye. Glad I double checked these things, but overall, this is a game that I've ran multiple times, multiple iterations, and I don't love it here. It's certainly Pittsburgh can push the pace a little bit, but I do worry that this defense is a lot better than this spread is giving us kind of indication of. 47.5. These are big numbers with Pittsburgh defense coming into Cincy, but again, this is just the power and the effect of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the field together, and Chase Brown now that he's basically just a bell cow and he's been the much better back between him and Zach Moss this season, and now Zach Moss out for the year, I do expect this offense to be firing on all cylinders. And I think offensively, I mean, they're still going to be good enough, I think, to put up points. It's just a hard one for me to get a grasp on. I'm leaning towards a weird one. Joe Burrow over 36.5 pass attempts, purely because when you run this game out, there's multiple times he lands on 38, 39, 40 passing attempts. Very few that I'm running into like sub 32, 33, but the bulk of the curve that I'm looking at here kind of exists right around this number. So I think it's a little bit of a thin play, even as is. I can't find a lot that I like from this one. I think T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are fun to put together and say, hey, they do find offensive success against Pittsburgh. But I have so much respect for this defense and just overachieving nature of this team the entire year. I'm going to probably stay away from this one and just enjoy. And third up, we got the Chargers taking on Atlanta, another high total that we're looking at, 47.5. Remember when the Chargers defense was showing up and we had these super low sub 40 totals even in LA and things like that? Well, they're heading into Atlanta, and Atlanta going into their bye ran into the apocalypse in Denver. I mean, it was a terrible spot for them, and Drake London was dinged up a little bit coming into that game. He ended up playing and, well, could have just as well sat on the sidelines the entire time, that's for sure. I think he had, 3 catches for all of 61 yards or something. Yeah, that's more yardage than you expect for 3 catches. But anywho, what I'm getting at is this game, I have a lot more interest in terms of points because the Chargers, in terms of neutral game scripts, that is 20% expected win percentage up to 80% expected win percentage, and not within the 2 minutes of the second quarter and fourth quarter, because purely those are almost all passing downs. So a lot of the time, majorly passing downs. You're looking at a team that is top 5. The Chargers, yes, the Los Angeles Chargers, top 5 in the NFL in terms of passing rate. That is crazy when you think about Harbaugh being the coach back there. He got beat up by I think it's his older brother. But anyway, he got beat up by his brother there at home in LA. And this is a great opportunity for them to kind of establish a lot of those passing game concepts that have started to be very, very positive for them. I mean, Ladd McConkey has been awesome. Quentin Johnston, when he's not dropping balls like a dum-dum, has been pretty serviceable relative to his rookie season, that's for sure. And Justin Herbert, now that he's got a functional head coach here helping him out, will say I like Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator, and it didn't work out all that well at times, but this defense is much, much improved and obviously healthy for the first time in a long time. I mean, Khalil Mack, that is somebody that you need on the football field. But going up against Atlanta here, I think Atlanta also is going to find some success and going to have to pass the ball a lot. It's starting to be that crunch time. It's starting to feel a lot like Christmas, and you got to start racking together some wins. I think both teams find offensive success. I like the over of this game. We're talking 47.5. That is too low for my liking. Got it closer to that 50.5 type number. Seattle at New York. This is just a gross, disgusting little football game overall. I mean, what do you want me to say about the Jets that hasn't been said already? Biggest disappointment in the NFL relative to expectations by a landslide, I would say. And we got a 41.5, 42 total here. You've had Breece Hall be limited in practice all week long. I think he should be okay to go here, but I mean, everybody's gone there in New York. I mean, Saleh gone. No opportunity here for any kind of, I would say there's like a 0% chance the Jets would want Aaron Rodgers coming back next season. We'll see if anybody wants Aaron Rodgers to play football for them next season. He's been pretty brutal back there in the pocket this season. Doesn't surprise me. It's another quarterback, him and Kirk Cousins, coming off of Achilles tears. I mean, these are big time injuries. They're hard for 20-year-olds to come back from, let alone 30, 40-year-olds. So there you go. Have fun, Aaron Rodgers. Let me know how that goes. But you got Seattle here getting a lot of respect in the number. I mean, you see a number of books where this is one on either side of it. Some have the Jets, some have the what am I trying to even say? Seattle. So Seattle money line is going to be my lean here purely because they couldn't have laid a bigger egg last time out. I mean, they've looked really, really good at times. Then they look brutal at times. It's a really tough team to get a concept for, but DK Metcalf back in life, 16-6. They still found a way to win that game. All I'm saying is that offense looked brutal. I mean, Arizona looked really brutal. We'll talk about them taking on my Vikings here in a second, but I don't love any of the props in this game here right now. Want to get kind of some confirmation about Breece Hall. You're not going to get Braylon Allen numbers that show up here until then, so it's kind of hit here holding the bag on Saturday. We'll see if anything shows up Sunday morning. I'm going to get this one over with quick. Houston at Jacksonville. I'm pretty convinced that Trevor Lawrence plays football. He had the shoulder injury. This is a little bit sooner than I thought he would come back, but Doug Peterson, they had rumblings saying that they were going to fire him if he lost to Detroit, which is kind of a silly thing to say because Detroit is like top 3 in the NFL. Top 2, potentially, in terms of football teams you don't want to be facing. And despite what we saw on Thanksgiving on a short week, I'll give them a little bit of a break. They found a way to win that football game, although Caleb Williams kind of gifted it to them. Anyway, we're not talking about Detroit. We're talking about Houston and Jacksonville. And Houston, another week of getting this offense in order with Nico Collins back in your life, who's been, I would say, the most dynamic wide receiver in the NFL this season when healthy. Again, you just got to stay healthy. Outs weeks 6 through 10, comes back in week 11, had that touchdown call back. Week 12, he does score a touchdown, but had another touchdown called back. That guy could be on another planet in terms of anytime touchdown numbers. And once you know it, they're too short for my liking here for a wide receiver in this spot, although I believe he is my second highest rated wide receiver to score a touchdown. I know my guy, Draco, is in there. Let me see. Yeah, A.J. Brown, number 1 for me. So that's not surprising. A.J. Brown, Nico Collins, Justin Jefferson. Those are not going to be bets for me for what it's worth. They're too short of numbers on all 3. But I am very much looking at C.J. Stroud under 263.5 passing yards in this one. Against Jacksonville, Joe Mixon should be able to do whatever he wants on the ground. And we'll take a look at some Joe Mixon numbers. Again, these are just so inflated for a team on the road here. But overall, I think Trevor Lawrence being in this football game, a big deal to help keep it a little bit closer. And maybe like CJ Stroud, in terms of passing expectation. But under 263.5, especially if it's Mac Jones out there, would look really, really good. But just a lean for now, not going to be on the card as of yet. This is on the card, kind of a wild one. Arizona and Minnesota. Obviously, Arizona against Seattle last time out. Again, both teams played absolutely brutally. But Arizona, the loser in that one, 16-6. And the more that I run iterations of this game, the more I get worried. Get very, very worried about the blitzes coming here after Kyler Murray. It will take a couple of big plays. They won't be able to dink and dive with Trey McBride. 15 targets, 12 catches, 133 yards. He was the major bright spot for the Arizona offense, despite the inability to actually put up points and generate any actual offense. So that was brutal. Have fun going up against Brian Flores' defense here, because my dear Lord Almighty, Minnesota's defense has outperformed every expectation you could have ever had for them, that I ever could have had for them. But Sam Darnold offensively, we've started to see some mistakes. He's been a little bit more mistake prone here in recent weeks. I mean, he should have been picked about 3 times against the Bears. Against Tennessee, he found ways to be successful. And of course, those 3 picks he threw against Jacksonville, probably an outlier, led to an outlier game script, but still, we've now rattled 4 straight wins off and looking pretty darn good. And one of the things that quietly is happening, Aaron Jones, we're able to lessen the workload on him when need be. And you had the fumble. It didn't look good. It was a brutal win against Chicago. We had Justin Jefferson completely gone. Jordan Addison was a god. TJ Hawkinson just completely full go here again. But I do think Cam Akers at 19.5, 18.5 was a little bit earlier. I really like his rushing opportunity in a spot like this, even in 3 or 4 carries against Arizona. It's not a very difficult matchup, and Arizona's defense has been the bend don't break philosophy, but doing a really good job of kind of standing pat. And again, 16 points against Seattle, that's a pretty serviceable number. You'd think Arizona wins a majority of those games. But still, 120 plus rushing yards giving up per game. You're not going to see Sam Darnold out there running. It's going to be all Aaron Jones, and now Cam Akers completely the number 2 ahead of Ty Chandler at this point in time. I think this is too low of a number, and I think they want to keep Aaron Jones fresh. They're looking really, really good here for the playoffs right now. I think you get at least 4 or 5, maybe even 6 carries here. Last week against Chicago was the fewest amount of carries we had seen in quite some time, but I think that was by design. I think Aaron Jones is going to get unleashed in certain spots where the winning is a little bit more uncertain. I think here at home in the Dome, you see a little bit more work for Akers. And you'll see a lot of bit of work from me if you guys head to the Discord down below. We got 60% off running for Black Friday. I know it's Saturday and then leading into Sunday, but 60% off using code Lindy60 down at the link below. Do you want to get all of my plays exactly when I place them? Do you want to get all of my updated picks from this video? Do you want to ask me questions about DFS? Yes, over at the Stochastic YouTube channel. I have a channel devoted to that. Are you entertained? Gladiator 2. Let me know if you like the movie. It's fantastic. But anyway, we've got ourselves an awesome promo going, so I'd love for you guys to take advantage of it. It's only live until Monday evening, so you got a little bit of time if you're looking for it, but why don't you get all the NFL props and plays here from the weekend? Would love to have you in there. Let's get back to the picks. Next on our tour, we've got Tennessee at Washington, and this is a play kind of similar to the last one where it's a low rushing floor that we're looking for, and I think he's going to probably find ways to surpass it. I'm a little bit surprised Tennessee has not been utilizing more of Will Levis as a runner over the course of this season by design. Now, he's had 8, 7, and 5 attempts, partially because he's been running for his life, and I don't think it could be understated enough. The last 2 weeks for Tennessee, they had to face Houston and Minnesota. Those are 2 of the teams in the NFL, top 5, in blitz rate. They will blitz you ad nauseum. Not going to be happening here as much for Washington. Now, one thing to pay attention to on the defensive side for Washington, Marshawn Lattimore, back in practice. I don't think he suits up for this one. I think you'll probably see him the next week against his former team in New Orleans. Revenge in his heart or something of that nature. But anyway, Dan Quinn talking a lot about different things going on there on the defensive side of the ball for Washington that have been head scratchers, defensive issues here. And I do think Brian Robinson Jr. on the offensive end, he'll come back for this one. Austin Eckler out with that brutal concussion that we saw, but defensively, Washington has not really been up to par. And Jaden Daniels will find ways to be successful again because he can do it with his legs. How about that lock from Sunday? That was kind of automatic. 74 yards on the ground. Said it was going to come back in that spot. You got to buy in when the numbers are low. Now, the numbers have adjusted for, oh yeah, Jaden Daniels runs. Like a reminder, like you need people to be reminded that can happen. So, yeah, don't be going back to the well here on this one. Sometimes, obviously there's spots like the Colts defense where we've been taking rushers against them almost all season long, but I'm still running the numbers and it just comes down to it's hard to set the numbers higher if you're the books in some of these spots because you're trying to get the range of outcomes. And again, books are happy to take a position or two. But anywho, Jaden Daniels, not going to be going back to his props here in this spot. I'm going to go to the quarterback on the other side. Will Levis over 18.5 rushing yards. Talked about it a second ago. But yeah, this is a team that until they get Lattimore out there where they can kind of let him, not Revis Island type stuff, but until they can get him integrated, Washington against the run, this is going to be something I think by design. They should find some ways to get Will Levis entertained back there. That is for sure. But get some design runs for the love of God. Tampa Bay at Carolina, and this game has me in fits. I'm having a very tough time figuring out what I want to do here. I think the total is pretty efficient. Now, there is a 45.5 that's sitting around right now as opposed to 46.5, but this is a lot of respect to just expect Bryce Young to continue to sling it. He's looked much better the last couple of weeks. Now, it hasn't resulted in winning, nor would I want Carolina to probably want to go out and win, but very competitive against Kansas City. If you're a Carolina fan, it has at least got to feel okay to see a functional offense back there with Chuba Hubbard. You get Brooks integrated a little bit here. Jonathan Brooks is out there. I mean, we saw, all of 2 carries last time, but the whole thing is Chuba Hubbard got paid for a reason. He's been the back that was promised, and, surprising that it's not Miles Sanders who is on IR and also got paid, and they have tons of draft equity. If Carolina just quit having this fetish for running backs, life would probably be pretty good for them. As for Tampa Bay, Mike Evans comes back in, full go, 6 targets right off the bat. Felt good against the Giants to not have to utilize him all that much. I'm not going to take any reductions to his snap count here against Carolina. He looks awesome in this spot. However, the numbers are so inflated across the prop industry here on the Tampa Bay side of things. I mean, you cannot get close to Mike Evans or K-Dotton or anything. It's basically shorter pass, and that, isn't very entertaining for the people over here, although I'm happy to take my unders a little closer to game time. I'm always talking about that purely because public likes to bet things up, try to bet my overs earlier in the week, but I don't have anything here at the moment. Tampa Bay minus 5.5. I mean, they just went in and blitzkrieged the crap out of the Giants as they should, but Carolina, I don't trust what we've seen from Bryce Young the last couple of weeks. Maybe he is very improved, and Adam Thielen being out there again is definitely a plus, but I don't think you're going to be getting Sanders out there. That was a brutal injury. You got close to coming back this week, which was kind of wild to me, but Tommy Tremble, not nearly the same dynamic playmaker there at the tight end position. So yeah, I'm leaning towards the Tampa Bay side of things purely from a defensive perspective. I think they probably shut down Carolina at home, but Carolina being at home, I'm done with this game. I love this game. Rams taking on New Orleans. This one, I am very interested in a lot of things, so much so that it's hard for me to just pick one. Now, New Orleans, we've definitely seen some ridiculous output here from Taysom Hill of late. I mean, the guy goes for 8 catches, 7 rushing attempts, 3 touchdowns, has a 75-yard rush in the middle of one of those for a touchdown, threw a pass, threw a pick. I mean, there was just so much going on with Taysom Hill last week. It probably felt good if you started him in fantasy, although I know a lot of people's benches accumulated all the fantasy points. That's never fun. But overall, we're seeing a functional offense here. And again, Chris Olave being out, disaster. Rashid Shaheed being out, disaster. But Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Cedric Wilson Jr., they're being serviceable. It's really about Alvin Kamara here. Alvin Kamara should get back to doing Alvin Kamara things against the Rams. He should be a vertical threat. He should be a diagonal threat. He should just basically be the queen on the chessboard. Move him around, do a ton with him. And then Taysom Hill, he's like your other queen on the chessboard. You have 2 of them. You got the pawn all the way down to the other end of the board. No more chess analogies for me. Nobody wants those. Let's talk about the Rams, though. They're going to have to play 3D checkers here. Every checkers is 3D. 4D checkers is what we're looking at here. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. And now you do have Tyler Higbee close to returning, but he was ruled out, so he's still going to be waiting his return. Colby Parkinson has been sent to the Shadow Realm in favor of Davis Allen, although Davis Allen not getting targeted at all, but kind of makes sense when you have Robinson playing as well as he has this entire season as your wide receiver 3, and Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. I think Nacua has been the number 1, though, whenever they've been healthy and both out there. 14, 13, 9 targets in the last 3 weeks here for Puka Nacua. A ridiculous workload, whereas Cooper Kupp, 11, 10, and 7, a little bit more muted. And a lot of those being closer to the goal line there. 2 touchdowns for Cooper Kupp against New England in come-from-behind fashion. Had the 1 against Philly there. Again, he has great rapport there with Matthew Stafford, no doubt about it. But if I'm looking to ladder anybody on Sunday right now, I think Puka Nacua has to be my guy. I don't think it could be understated. They have not played a very difficult passing team. Now, we saw Jameis Winston have some decent enough ammo out there, but they were passing the entire game purely by necessity. I think the New Orleans secondary is just dog shit at this point in time. No, Marshawn Lattimore, he's been sent to Washington, although he's still, again, I don't think he plays this week. I'm very much here for Puka Nacua. I'm looking at 80 plus, 90 plus, 100 plus, maybe the 125 type numbers also getting posted over on FanDuel.com. Again, FanDuel's been sharper in the NFL streets, been testing some different stuff over at Portfolio EV, which you can definitely check out as well at OddsShopper. But Puka Nacua, I'm going to call it a lean, but probably make it a lean like for the people purely because, yeah, I'll make it a lean like for the people because I'm very interested in this play, but don't have a ticket on it just as of yet. 2 more games to go. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell as we talk Philly at Baltimore. I think this is your matchup of the freaking weekend. Now, the next one coming up, Sunday Night Football, we've got San Francisco at Buffalo. That should be enjoyable. Josh Allen just got engaged. Congratulations to him. But we'll get to all those ins and outs. That's not actual analysis. This is analysis here. I think there's an interesting push-pull dynamic here with the Philadelphia defense. I don't know what to make of it, but they are number 1 in PFF grading. The big problem I have is their strength of schedule is the weakest in the entire NFL. I think they're very hard to evaluate how good they are. Now they go on the road against Baltimore, and Baltimore has routinely found ways to have shootout after shootout after shootout. They're 6-5-1 against the spread, so I mean, in terms of how that works out, like, you know, you take it or leave it. I mean, they've been a pretty neutral football team to be betting on individually, but I look at their totals over the course of this season. Do you know they are 10-2 to the over this season on their games? 10-2. That's insane. You can't set numbers high enough here. But now we're looking at a 51 with the number 1 PFF defense coming in there. The ridiculous secondary that has emerged out of nowhere, I would say, in Philadelphia. But again, this is by far their hardest test. And despite the fact that they can't find ways to integrate Deontay Johnson into this offense for the Baltimore, they don't really need him if Mark Andrews is going to be playing the football he has the last couple of weeks. They go into the Chargers territory and just smack them around on Monday night. I do think a little bit of a short week here for Baltimore. Again, just Monday to Sunday. It's a little bit strange. It's harder to evaluate rather than like the Sunday to Thursday where, it's kind of been an underfest. But I think between that and Philly's defense being much, much better and the desire for Philadelphia to try to establish the run, even if it isn't there here against Baltimore, purely for the sake of this game. I mean, Baltimore's holding teams under 80 yards rushing per game, second best in the entire NFL. I think this game probably gets uglier than expected. So Devonta Smith, that was such a big question mark coming into this game. He's listed questionable. I'm not going to have that news closer till kickoff. So again, this afternoon window maybe is where I fire up a little bit more, depending on how that pans out. Again, AJ Brown, I do have as one of the most likely guy to score at the wide receiver position, but I like the under of the game, so I'm not going to do it. Under 51. It's just a huge number. That's really what this comes down to. Got this closer in that 48 range, and that's enough of a cushion to make this a play. And the last game of the night, oh, yes. This is where our lock comes from. San Francisco at Buffalo, and we have been running red hot, not just in primetime locks, but on this program. 2-0 last week, 1-0 the week before, and the week before it, 1-0. Oh, these Sunday locks are starting to really come into play here as well. We are very, very nice in the green now on the season, and I hope that continues here. But you've got San Francisco in an absolute have-to-have-it, can't screw around, must-win football game. And good news for them, Brock Purdy is sounding like a go because whatever we saw in Green Bay was not going to cut it offensively there. That is for sure. Getting him back is such a big deal here for this football team, and I don't really have to list off all the ways, but you go from basically one of the worst quarterbacks that we've seen play all season long, him and Tommy DeVito, that Brandon Allen character. I mean, my God, what were we even doing out there, sir? 17 for 29 looks good in the box score, but short ADOTs. I believe his longest, 6.9 yards per reception there. Oh boy, Brock Purdy, huge improvement, but Brock Purdy having to go on the road in Buffalo here. It's going to be brutality. As for Buffalo on the other side, Dalton Kincaid continuing to be out. Keon Coleman also with this wrist listed as questionable. Sounds like it's going to be a true game time decision, and that's always weird to me when it's a wrist and not a lower body injury, but I guess it's maybe a pain tolerance thing or a cold thing. But I don't really know what to say about Josh Allen getting engaged other than congratulations, yay, woo. Haley Steinfeld, she seems nice. But we're very much looking at the 49er side of things. I think you have to take into consideration historical prop numbers, and that's something that I've done forever on this show in every single sport, purely because it gives you context for where something was a year ago, 2 years ago, where they've been in recent weeks in the NBA, where you have minutes, such a big deal to be projecting, or usage in the NFL. I don't think anybody's questioning Christian McCaffrey's usage whatsoever this entire season. I mean, last week, he had 11 for 31. That game got out of hand quickly, but 38-10. I mean, you weren't going to have Christian McCaffrey on that fourth quarter because, as much as you wanted to have him out there, you knew that game was pretty unattainable pretty darn quickly. But before that, against Seattle, 19 carries, Tampa Bay, 13 carries, playing basically all of the snaps there at running back. They mixed in a little bit of Jordan Mason even early in that game for what it's worth in Green Bay. But Christian McCaffrey was sitting minus 275, minus 250, minus 300, minus 325 in the Super Bowl. These are absurd anytime touchdown numbers. It's minus 135. We're talking a dude. There is no Brandon Ayuk. He's out for the season. Juwan Jennings has been playing pretty darn good football, but they want to switch those contracts potentially. Deebo Samuel, yes, he's out there dynamic. George Kittle, the rapport he has, especially with no Brandon Ayuk on the field, the touchdown expectation for him goes way, way up. But I don't understand how you're getting minus 135 at FanDuel for something that a year ago was just like the most automatic slam dunk bet. And yes, year to year, things change. This is not the same 49ers team by any means. Obviously, they're below 500 for week 13 point. Nobody expected these kind of things. 5-6, but you play Christian McCaffrey as many snaps as humanly possible here in Buffalo. You get your out. You find that lock Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown. Best bet on the board on Sunday. And that does it for another edition of NFL Lindy's Leans, Lights, and Locks. Week 13 in the books. Head to that comment section below. Let me know your favorite plays that exist for this lovely slate that we have before us. Nothing really else to add. Check out Lindy60 down at the link below. Would love to have you in that Discord. Get all of those plays updated. We'll see you guys soon. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NFL streets on Sunday.